Before I start this week's episode, I just want to say that the current fires in Southern California have been devastating to so many communities. I was evacuated on Wednesday evening, but was able to return the following day. I am praying for every Angelino and for Los Angeles itself. I love the city. Welcome to Window Dressing. This is a bonus episode about the recent film Anora, written and directed by Sean Baker. I released a short film review about it and the Pamela Anderson movie The Last Showgirl a few weeks ago. I decided to devote a full episode to Anora because I love it. I rarely love a new movie with this level of intensity, but it has completely occupied my attention, and I think it deserves a deeper dive. I will return with my regular scheduled Season 3 programming soon. Anora reads like a 1930s crime comedy. As I said in my short review of the film, Mikey Madison is a modern-day Ida Lupino, with a heavy dash of babyface and ball of fire Barbara Stanwyck. Anora gives a healthy dose of deference to the form, while still being inextricably linked to current culture. It feels to me the way neo-noir in the 70s felt. It's grittier than the original wave of the genre, but heavily layered with aging remnants of a time past. It reminds me the most of the 1938 movie The Mad Miss Manton, but with a reversal of fortune for the genders and with a twist ending that ditches the first love affair for a far more intimate and grounded one. Anora, or Annie as she prefers to be called, is a stripper. Her new love, Ivan, who prefers to be called Vanya, is the son of a Russian oligarch, wealthy beyond reason. Russian actor Mark Edelstein plays Vanya. Annie meets Vanya when he comes into her work, a strip club called Headquarters, HQ for short. She is the only girl working who speaks and understands Russian, so her boss sends her to his table to take care of him. His literal words to her are, "Make me proud." Vanya hires her for a week-long girlfriend experience, and she is charmed by his little boy personality and his extreme wealth. Honestly, who wouldn't be charmed by a harmless child with loads of cash? I mentioned Babyface and Ball of Fire, starring Barbara Stanwyck, because those films are also about sex workers. In the case of Ball of Fire, which came out in 1941, as opposed to the pre-code release date of Babyface, she is a showgirl in a gangster's mall, which is whore-coded. Stories about sex workers are always the best movies. You would be hard-pressed to pick your top 3 films from any decade and not have at least one night butterfly in the mix. This isn't a surprise given the power dynamics and wage gaps that have been consistent for women, limiting our options and making great purchasable pleasure for idiotic men. To be clear, I support sex workers 100%. But I deeply resent that it is still one of the few go-to options for women to make real money. The most important thing is that a woman be in charge of her own sexuality and her choices. I think that is only possible in a limited way in current culture. We do the best we can, but to pretend like there isn't a price to pay is an erasure of women's experience. What I like most about Annie as a character is that she shows us the reality for women that can be applied equally across the spectrum. The saccharine sweet she plays at the club, and with Ivan initially, is what is expected of us. This is the quote-unquote girlfriend experience. Even the most evolved men expect a level of deference that they wouldn't even be able to identify as such because it is so baked into the culture. The real Annie is a bad bitch with a quick temper and a sharp tongue. I live for her calling her coworker a ginger cunt and accusing Igor of not raping her because he is a faggot. I apologize to my gay listeners who I love and adore for using that slur to illustrate a point. I am not going to apologize for saying cunt. No one, as of yet, earned Annie's trust or her genuine sweetness, except for her best friend at the club, Lulu, played by Luna Sophia Miranda. Their friendship is not the focus of the story, but there are moments that remind me of the magic inherent in the unguarded love between women at that age. A level of trust that takes longer to earn later in life, but is given freely to the right girl when you're 23. There is one scene in particular where after private dances, they go outside to share a joint. As a side note, this is the only strip club I have ever seen in my life that allows the patrons to touch the girls. I really wonder what the fuck was going on in Baker's mind with that one. I don't think we are to assume he didn't know better, but the number one rule at any strip club is no touching. What the fuck was that about? For me, it made it seem less real, but I can't imagine it was an oversight. This purposeful invasion of even the lowest bar of protection for dancers seems strange and does make me question the director. But I digress. Annie and Lulu are talking about the disgusting male patrons, one specifically that Annie describes as the Indian Jeffrey Dahmer, who rubbed her legs in circles. I'll say it again, no touching. Anyways, Lulu comments on Annie's butterfly nails. She says, "You're so classy." Then she says, "I got $signs like a real hoe." Annie responds, "You're manifesting with that." This is fucking adorable. It makes me so happy. I love girls. There is truly nothing in this life that I care about more than women and girls. Making space for the joy of womanhood in a world that either hates women or lives to exploit them is almost impossible. But butterfly manicures and $signs to attract wealth are doing a lot of heavy lifting in that regard. Before I move forward, we have to discuss Anora's hair. She is wearing red tinsel hair extensions throughout the entire movie. The extensions match the movie's title cards and shine like the neon sign of the strip club. It is one of those hair and makeup touches that complete the circle of storytelling. There are no frayed edges here. This was brilliant. And I actually think the hair and makeup team deserves special credit for contributions to character development. Mikey said to Vogue in an October 2024 article that the hair and makeup team helped her transform into the character from the outside in. The tinsel hair was hair department head Justine Sarakowski's idea. She said that Adrienne Malouf's look in the first season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills sparked the idea. I have to say, I love, love, love when all of my interests align in one outstanding hair look. Apparently, both the head hair and makeup person are huge Real Housewives of Beverly Hills fans. According to the same Vogue article, the tinsel was mostly hand-tied every day and had a 6-hour prep time. Honestly, worth it. Annie lives with her sister in a house next to the train. The bleakness of her walking home in the morning light after work with her vape and bomber jacket is visceral for me. Watching her try to sleep with the train running by her window makes me feel icky all over. This is PTSD from my own difficult treks home from work and uncomfortable living arrangements. The one thing I wish this movie had more of that we get a touch of here is scenes with Annie alone. I get the best sense of her when I see her sitting in silence or walking alone. But even with Vanya, her personality shines. She acts docile, but rolls her eyes and giggles at his juvenile lovemaking and ridiculously childish video game obsession. Honestly, there is nothing more disgusting to me than a man playing a video game. It's really not okay. Her private dance to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills alum Erica Jane's raunchy collab song, Drip, is another clue that she is playing a part for money and security. Apparently, the hair and makeup department are not the only fans of the show. She dances in an incredibly sexy but also robotic and rote way. A few days into Annie's extended stay at Vanya's tech library-looking mansion, they decide to go to Vegas with a few of Vanya's friends. They make the journey in a private jet and arrive to an unbelievably posh suite with everything they could want or need supplied to them, including vitamin drips that the couple receives while holding hands after a night of partying and in preparation for another one. One night in bed at the end of the purchased week, Annie says she's going to miss Vanya. He suggests they get married. At first, the tone is not serious, but it quickly becomes so. She makes a point of saying, "Don't fuck around and don't be an asshole." What she is saying here is, I'm broke, you are rich, do not fuck around with me and treat me like I am not a human being with feelings. She finally says, "Are you serious?" He says, "I'm serious and I said it twicely." She shows him her ring finger and says, 3 carats. His immediate response is, "What about 4, 5, or 6? See? Charming. They run to the little white chapel to get married. She is wearing cut-off jean shorts and a nude corset. This is a real rock and roll coded marriage. In a montage post-nuptials, the music swells, they kiss, faux fireworks explode in the false sky at the Venetian, and everything looks like magic. Most importantly, Annie gets her dream come true life. When Annie returns home from Vegas, she quits her job at headquarters and discusses the possibility of honeymooning at Disney World. Diamond, or Ginger Cunt as Annie refers to her, says, "I give it 2 weeks, bitch," of Annie's marriage. We all have enemies. One of the things I appreciate here is the no-holds-barred approach to female hatred. So often, women's strong feelings are dismissed in culture, to the point that as you age, you become hyper-aware of how you are being perceived, and you either lean in or attempt to curtail your expressions. Annie is not only expressing a childlike wonder in her desire to go to Disney World for her honeymoon, but in the same breath, she is defending herself against a woman who clearly wishes her harm. She isn't holding it in part because a strip club is a woman's workplace. It is akin to the women's bathroom in the 1938 film The Women, or the beauty salon in that or any other film. The performance of behaving cool, as in not interested in the childlike fantasy of Walt Disney, or being good, as in not calling your coworker a cunt, is not only not necessary here, but the freedom of being fully expressed without fear of judgment or loss is the magic in this movie. It illustrates the lines that exist societally and give plenty of space to see the joy inherent in being over the line, so to speak. The fact that she is a stripper just illustrates how those lines are drawn according to gender, class, and wealth. People that listen to me on a regular basis know that I am not a director or an auteur person. While I understand that there is a place for valuing the vision of the director as the key artist or auteur in a film, I am very uninterested in it. I think about movies, all movies, as if they were made in the 1930s, back when assembly line productions ruled and the director was no more important than any other part of the production. I think that's why I find it so natural to write about reality television, which is truly not directed but instead produced. I am most interested in the effect of a thing, and less interested in the vision of one man, sometimes one woman. Although the clear artists for me are wardrobe, makeup, hair, and the female star. I just wanted to state that outright because I am wary of attributing all I see and experience in Anora to the writer and director Sean Baker. if for no other reason than it is not my knowledge base, and I can't say in any authoritative way what his intent was. This also might be a good time to address the fact that there was no intimacy coach on this production. An intimacy coach is the person on set that protects the actors in nude or sex scenes. It's for their safety and honestly helps with accountability generally. Mikey, in her recent actors interview with Pamela Anderson, iconic pairing by the way, said that both she and Baker decided against having one. This is suspicious to me because he is the director and she is a 25-year-old actress. But on the other hand, can I really comment on their dynamic? No, I can't. Does it make me think less of him? Yes. This, coupled with the odd absence of the no-touching rule at the fictionalized strip club where Annie works, gives me pause. The American dream prevails in a Hooker and John montage in which the couple shops for wedding rings, buys a fur coat, and most importantly, shares Chinese food while drinking Coca-Cola out of cans. The obvious reference is Pretty Woman, but this reminds me much more of the 1996 film True Romance, especially when Vanya's father's goons and hired gun Igor show up at the mansion's front door. Rumors of Vanya's marriage to a quote-unquote prostitute have shown up in the press and reached his parents, who call in watchdog and fuck-up fixer Toro, who calls his right-hand man Garnick and brings Igor. Igor is played brilliantly by Yuri Borzov. Vanya initially tries to keep them out of the house, but they have the passcode for the door and enter against his wishes. Annie is wearing panties and a black t-shirt with a butterfly on it, another reference to her soaring soul that we see throughout the film. She hears Toro on speakerphone referring to her as a prostitute. Vanya takes Garnick to the office where the marriage license is so he can photograph it for Toro and leaves Annie alone with Igor in the living room. Igor says hi and introduces himself. Annie says, "Annie, Vanya's wife," and flashes her ring. Igor says, "Congratulations." Despite these niceties, the situation quickly unravels as Toro, who is now on his way, screams through the phone that they will get the marriage annulled. He also calls Annie a whore in Russian. Annie says his mother is a whore. Vanya runs out of the house and down the street, leaving Annie behind with Igor as Garnick chases Vanya. Annie starts after Vanya too, but Igor stops her. She screams at him to get the fuck out of her way while she's waving a finger in his face. Igor tells her to relax. She pushes him and says, "You fucking relax." She slaps him and then punches him in the face. He says, "Fucking impressive." She gets scared and backs away. She grabs a candlestick as a defensive weapon, eventually chucking it at Igor and breaking a picture on the wall behind him. She runs as he lunges for her and she knocks over a lamp, breaking more glass. He tries to grab her, another lamp and a side table break. Toro, on speakerphone, says, "What the fuck, are you killing her?" Igor pulls her down on the couch and lays on top of her, trying to keep her still. She screams even louder and repeatedly elbows him in the face. He says, "I will tie you up." She says, "You're not tying me up, motherfucker." He ties her wrists with telephone wire. Garnick walks in and says, "What the fuck are you doing to her?" Igor says, "What do you mean? You wanted to keep her here, so I'm keeping her here." Garnick replies, "Yes, but why are you tying her up?" Igor says, "But she got fucking crazy and started jumping all around. What else could I do?" I love the characterization, jumping all around. The back and forth between the two men goes on until finally Igor lets her go and she runs for the door. Igor goes to get her and she bites him. Igor picks her up, pulls her down on top of him on the couch, and tells Garnick to tie her legs. Garnet goes to do that, and she kicks him hard in the nose, breaking it. If we continue the 90s movie reference, I would call this scene Ginger from Casino adjacent. When Ginger rams her husband Sam's car over and over again with her white Mercedes and then screams and literally throws dirt at him, I died and went to heaven. This unadulterated look at female rage is a behind-the-curtain peek into the female experience. One of the reasons I revel so much in this kind of expression is because of the expectation of playing cool or kind that comes along with being a well-liked woman in our culture. The strength of our joys and pains are constantly muffled for other people's comfort. I think it's sexist on its face to be cool, laid back, or low maintenance. It's a fucking lie that only serves our captors. So I say, tear that shit down, Annie. Igor is still just holding her on top of him on the couch calmly, but with fear in his heart. Annie says, I bet you like this, huh? I bet you get off on this, you fucking psycho. She continues, now addressing Garnet and Igor. You two are fucking dead for this. I'm Ivan's fucking wife. The vitriol rolls off her tongue, trumping her fear and electrifying the space. The comedy of this bit shatters the reality of her powerlessness and highlights theirs. When Toro arrives, he insists they untie her, all while scolding them for their cowardice. Garnet is on the couch with what looks like frozen walnuts in a bag held to his nose, constantly warning them to be careful of her. Igor says, I can untie her, but you won't get what you need because she's out of control. She looks directly at Igor and says, fuck you. Garnet says, she's an animal, bro. Funny how a woman isn't actually a docile plaything, but a person with personality. Toro asks her where her phone is and then sends Igor to fetch it from the other room. He attempts to call Vanya from Annie's phone, but the call is forwarded to voicemail. Toro says, it's a great husband you have. First he ditches you and now doesn't answer your calls. She is hurt by this. Her affect gives away the longer explanation of why an insult directed at Vanya would be an insult directed at her. Women are judged, especially historically, by the amount of love or respect the men in our lives have for us. It's a determining factor of our place in society. Even now, a woman with a good father or husband is seen as a good woman. We are the reflections of the love someone else feels for us, and that someone else is almost always a man. We are wives, daughters, and mothers. We are an extension or property of a man. Even women with highly successful careers are lauded because they have, quote-unquote, lived like a man, which references the famous Katharine Hepburn quote that people love because they think living your life like a man makes you a feminist. The truth is, it's just a symptom of sexism, not a solution to it. The current definition of being a successful woman is either letting go of all joyful, unserious, or feminine pursuits and be for or like a man. Are you a wife or a lady boss? My highest goal is to be a bad bitch like Anora. Toro tries to convince Annie that she will be blamed and that they will make it look like she is a gold-digging whore out to exploit Vanya's family. She argues that the marriage is real. She shows her 4-carat diamond ring as valid proof. As soon as Toro sees the ring, he takes it off her finger and sticks it in his camel coat pocket. She starts to scream at the top of her lungs, "Rape! Rape! Rape!" Toro runs across the room, grabs a red scarf, and runs back with it like it's a ribbon dancer. They use it to gag her. Toro offers her a piddly $10,000 payout if she goes along with the annulment. Her only request is that she be allowed to speak to her husband before agreeing. Screaming rape is hysterically funny to me, because women are taught to scream fire when they are being raped, because no one will come for rape. So it illustrates the fact that she is clued into what they are afraid of, not so much what she is scared of. Their discomfort is joyful to watch. They all pile into Toro's Cadillac Escalade to search for Vanya. Annie wears her floor-length fur coat, sculptural platform heels, and a grimace on her face for the excursion. The fur is Russian sable. The mood of the car ride is that of a crime comedy with Keystone Cop-level antics. Again, the 1938 film The Mad Miss Manton, starring Barbara Stanwyck and Henry Fonda, comes to mind. In that movie, it's a reporter chasing a debutante chasing a murderer, instead of a Russian oligarch's henchman holding a sex worker hostage and chasing a missing man-child. But the vibe is the same. Madison pulls off a floor-length fur just as well as Stanwyck. They arrive at Brighton Beach Pier, park in front of a police barricade, and walk the rest of the way to Vanya's friend's candy shop. This is one of the most beautifully shot scenes in the film. They all walk in a line like a motley crew, with the Cyclone roller coaster as their skyline. It's beyond charming and rooted in the history of the place in a way that feeds the magic of the film. I will post a picture of this shot on Window Dressing's Instagram page. When they enter the candy shop, all four demand the boyfriend-girlfriend duo call Vanya. A clusterfuck ensues that ends in Tom, the boyfriend half of the candy shop duo, threatening the group with a baseball bat. Igor grabs the bat and breaks all the glass displays, clearing a way for Annie to step in and say, "Fucking call Ivan now." The call goes to voicemail, and she tosses the phone over her shoulder back at the girl. The important part about this scene is the teamwork between Igor and Annie. It suddenly feels that he is her muscle, that they are a team. It's a glorious combo. The strong, silent type and the bad bitch with glitter in her hair. The gang continues down the boardwalk, stopping at Vanya's other friend's restaurant job in the bitter cold, but to no avail. When they make it back to the car, it is in the process of being towed. In a remarkable scene, Toro gets into the car that is hitched to the tow truck, burns rubber, and breaks free, damaging both the tow truck and the SUV. He also hits and knocks over a trash can in the process. It's fantastic. This is a Die Hard level action scene. Garnick, who is now ill from taking pain pills provided by Igor and having a broken nose caused by Annie, throws up inside the car. Everyone gets out and smokes cigarettes at the gas station. Another scene that pairs Igor and Annie as a duo. They smoke together with chemistry that could light the place on fire even without the lit cigarettes next to gasoline. The group goes to a diner to eat. Meanwhile, Vanya is at HQ, headquarters, the strip club where Annie met Vanya. Diamond, a.k.a. Ginger Cunt, takes advantage of the opportunity to shame Annie and takes Vanya to the private room for a lap dance. She is gleeful over the opportunity and is provided an excellent soundtrack in which to humiliate another woman. She strips to Iggy Azalea's song Sally Walker from her 2019 album In My Defense, a favorite at my house. In the diner, Igor and Annie are eating hamburgers and talking with their mouths full. It's fucking adorable. The voracious diner etiquette is the stuff romantic dreams are made of. Hello, True Romance and Fallen Angel references. She asks him for one of the pills he gave Garnick, but Igor refuses, saying he is not a drug dealer. She calls him a faggot-ass bitch. In response, he asks her, "Why am I a faggot-ass bitch?" She says, "I don't know. They say you're just born that way." Again, apologies to anyone this term offends. Her forceful, bad bitch self and his calm, yet entertained demeanor is a powerful combination. In the background, Toro is lecturing a random table of young men about the ills of their generation when Annie gets a text from her best friend Lulu informing her that Vanya is at HQ. They all scramble to the car and head to the strip club. When they find the private room where Vanya and Diamond are, Annie says to Diamond, "Get the fuck off my fucking husband." She says to Vanya, "Why'd you fucking leave me, Vanya? These guys, they tied my wrists up. They took my fucking ring." She is almost in tears. Diamond chimes in. "Vanya, our hour's not over." It is disgusting to me that she calls him by his nickname. Such a purposeful slap in the face to Annie. Annie says, "Get her the fuck out of here." Garnick removes her. Annie keeps trying to talk to Vanya to no avail. He literally laughs in her face. Toro drags him out of the room and through the club by the scruff of his hoodie. Diamond follows in tow, screaming. Annie slaps Diamond in her face, and they get into an epic fight in the middle of the strip club. Igor comes to Annie's aid, pulling her out of the fray and guarding her body with his. This is another moment when it feels like Igor and Annie are working together, like he is her man. In the car, Annie looks at the scratches on her cheek that Diamond gave her. Toro is talking to a passed-out Vanya about the level of humiliation he brought upon him. The invisibility of Annie's pain at this moment is glaring. Her status as trash, subhuman, not important, just a hooker, is clear. Except with Igor, who palpably feels her devastation. There are few things worse than being humiliated by a man with another woman in front of an audience. This scene was actually difficult for me to watch and affected me more than any other in the film, except one, which we will get to. The group spends the night in the car in front of the courthouse, waiting for it to open. They are unable to get the marriage annulled in the state of New York and have to go to Nevada. This is a fabulous Reno divorce-style plot twist that begins with zany antics in the New York courthouse that has the judge referring to Toros as the camel coat and coaxing Annie to talk to him sweetly. Only a judge can say, "You should smile more" to a woman and call a man by his prominent outerwear look and get away with it. They all pile back into the car and meet Vanya's parents' private plane at some undisclosed airport hangar. When the parents arrive, Vanya's mother comes in first. Vanya clutches at her legs like a fucking child. Annie introduces herself. She says she is honored to be a part of the family. Vanya's mom says, "Ivan's not your husband, and you are not a part of this family." I fucking hate when women revel in their sons treating women like trash. It truly makes me afraid to have children. Devastated and angry, Annie tries to talk to Vanya on the walk to the plane. She says, "Vanya, we have to talk. Vanya, fucking look at me. Vanya, be a man and fucking talk to me." He finally turns and says, "What you want me to say? Can you understand that now we must go in the fucking plane and fly in fucking Vegas? Get it? You get it?" She says, "So we're getting a divorce?" He responds, "Of course. Are you stupid?" She looks broken. Her tears and vulnerability are visible. Vanya's mother, Galina, calls him and demands he hurry up. Vanya says to Annie, "And thank you for making my last trip to America so fun." She says in her saccharine sweet working voice, "Yeah, you had fun?" He says, "Yeah, let's go." She doesn't move. She stops and turns away. Galina comes out and demands she get on the plane. Annie says, "No, I'm not doing that." But she does, after Vanya's mother threatens every aspect of her life if she doesn't comply. On the plane, Annie sits in the back next to Igor. She can hear an argument between Vanya and Galina in which he refers to Annie as an escort. Annie stands up and screams, "I'm glad to be divorcing your sorry ass. You're a pathetic motherfucker." Igor hands Annie a drink, and they sit silently the rest of the way to Vegas. In the office of what I am assuming is the office of annulments, everyone signs the papers, tossing pens and dagger eyes around the room. When Annie turns to leave, Igor stands up and demands that Vanya apologize to Annie. His mother, Galina, says, "My son won't apologize to anyone. Is that clear?" This traitor bitch hates women as much as the world does. Fuck her. Annie says in a revelatory moment, "Your son is a fucking pussy." Galina says, "What?" Annie says, What? Did you not hear what I said? I said it's 'cause your son's a fucking pussy." Galina calls her a disgusting hooker and asks for her red scarf back. Annie calls her and her family trash, which they are, and throws the red scarf back at her along with the sable fur coat, which she puts over Vanya's head. It isn't lost on me that the scarlet scarf used to gag Annie was property of Vanya's mother. Igor and Annie have to fly back in coach. They stay one more night in the mansion before Annie gets her payout and has to go back to the strip club and her train-adjacent apartment that she lives in with her sister. There are so many elements of the story that are relatable, but the shitty apartment with your sister strikes a particularly familiar chord for me. The two watch TV and share a joint. Annie is on the floor with wet hair, tinsel and all, a white tank top, and gray sweatpants. Igor is on the couch in a white shirt, stretched out and relaxed. Igor says that he likes Anora, the name more than the nickname Annie. She says, "Okay," says the motherfucker named Igor. Fucking Igor. Stupid name. He says, "No, it's a good name. It means warrior." He says, "Yeah? Igor means hunchback weirdo, you fucking piece of shit. Can you shut the fuck up, please?" He smiles. He likes her as her, without the saccharine falsity. He says, "Touche." She says, "Touche?" He cracks up laughing. This exchange is so overwhelmingly sweet, like honey, not sweet and low sweet. I haven't felt such love for a man since John Clute from the 1971 film Clute. He is perfect because he sees her not as a prop to his ego, not as a baby he can mold, but as a woman he can love. Love is built in reality. He asks, "Your name is better?" She says, "No." He lights a cigarette for himself and her, and then looks up the etymology of her name on his phone. He is anticipating her desire to smoke and investigating the meaning she was born into the world with. This is love. Igor says, it's good she isn't part of this family, meaning Vanya's. She gets angry and feels embarrassed. He says, "I just try to support you." She says, "You fucking assaulted me, you fucking psychopath." She shows him her bruises. He says, "First, it's because you have sensitive skin. And it's second, because you're too crazy. I mean, you're crazy too, but I can say you're crazy too." She says, "Touche." He says, "Touche." He says she was never in danger. She responds, "You know, if Garnick wasn't there, you could have raped me. Guaranteed." He says, "Raped?" She says, "No doubt." He says, "Why would I have raped you?" She says, "You have rape eyes." He says he didn't want to rape her. Her tone shifts, and she says, "Oh yeah? Why?" She is wielding her sexuality as a weapon here in a way that pushes him out of what is comfortable to test him. This feels like a very particular brand of sexual ownership that acknowledges the power of her sexuality and the cruelty of men. It is truly hers to wield, and I would take huge issue with anyone that feels like this makes light of rape, which I can assume some might. She says, "Why wouldn't you have raped me?" He says he isn't a rapist. "No, because you're a faggot-ass bitch." She does a mild hair flip and walks up the stairs. He smiles, again enjoying seeing her as her. She is funny, clever, and the warmest-hearted man-eater in town. In the morning, he drives her home. She opens the door to get out. He says, "Wait." He places her 4-carat diamond ring in her palm. He gets out of the car and carries her bags to her door. She stays in the car. He joins her. She takes off her coat and slides over onto his lap. She pushes her skirt up and his seat down. They have sex. It isn't just hot car sex or payment for the ring. It's that heady, perfumed sex that makes you feel high and taste honey in the back of your throat. He grabs her head and holds it. She stops, pulls away, hits him, slaps him, and sobs. He holds her. Her tears are mine. Anora reignited my belief in love, in the idea that there is any man out there who could understand or see me. Igor isn't the hero, Anora is. But seeing him love her, desire her, and hold her all at the same time changed my perception of what is possible. My tears keep coming. Thank you, dear Anora, for crying them on screen. Anora isn't just the best movie of this year. It's the best movie in the last 30 years. Thank you so much for listening to this special bonus episode of Window Dressing. Please like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening. I'm Madeline Jane Auble.